he is now threatening violence against innocent civilians. We have a name for people who use violence against innocent people. We call them terrorists.
They're saying definitively no money. But what Democrats should be saying is, we're going to impeach and remove you. That's what they should be saying. This is not an excursion. This is a 6-week war. In his speech on Wednesday, he said it was a war because he compared it to other wars. Because you have to have patience. Look at World War II, how long that took. Look at the Iraq War, how long. We were at war for 6 weeks. It's not illegal. It's unconstitutional. If this is not grounds to impeach a president, I don't care about how many votes you have in the Senate. Your job by the Constitution is to hold the president accountable. That's why you're in Congress. High crimes and misdemeanors. This has to be. Americans are dead. Billions of dollars are spent. Take the vote. Impeach the guy. I don't care what happens in the Senate. Do your job.
So, Peter, I wanted to share with you this reporting from the Wall Street Journal that the top aides advising Trump to blast Iran's infrastructure are fair game. There's a part that reads, top aides have privately made the case to President Trump in recent days that Iran's power-generating facilities and bridges are legitimate military targets because destroying them could cripple the country's missile and nuclear programs, officials say. It's kind of disturbing to hear that being reported. I mean, if it is true that that's the kind of advice President Trump is getting, because he's not a person who is familiar with international law, and we just kind of, I don't think most of our viewers understand that, you know, if you're outside of America and you were looking at like where the Pentagon is, which is like a half a mile away from Pentagon City Mall, or you have I-95, or you have an Army recruiting center here in Times Square, the idea that, you know, civilian infrastructure is embedded in all parts of, military infrastructure is embedded in all parts of civil society in this country. But the idea that the Pentagon would be advising the president, and we don't know if it's military officers or not, that it is fair game to go after that, just is frightening and terrifying that our country would be embarking on this level of international violations of law.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to hear Democrats answer is, do you think Donald Trump is committing war crimes? I mean, because he's not shy about it, right?
Right.
He screams that he's committing war crimes. And if he is committing war crimes, do you think he should be prosecuted at the International Criminal Court?
Yeah.
Like we supported the prosecution of Vladimir Putin. Of course he should. Right? These are war crimes. Everybody associated with targeting civilian infrastructure in a war that was illegal against a country that posed no imminent threat, no threat at all, actually, to the United States. Democrats should take the position that those people should be prosecuted at the International Criminal Court as war criminals, because they are war criminals.
This morning, the President of the United States posted to Truth Social the vulgar post I'm sure you have seen by now, with an F-bomb and a quote, "Praise be to Allah." Now compare that to another president who led America through a war, Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural, ending with these words, "With malice towards none, with charity for all." It's quite a stark difference, which brings us to a part of the Constitution most Americans have never had reason to think about. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, which says if the vice president and a majority of the cabinet decide the president is unable to do the job, they can notify Congress and the vice president takes over as acting president immediately. It has never been used in American history before, and it's an extremely high bar to get there. But this morning, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy posted this online, quote, "If I were in Trump's cabinet, I would spend Easter calling constitutional lawyers about the 25th Amendment." And our next guest writes this, quote, "I wonder very much what the next few days will bring, because this is looking like basically a president who is losing it, and unfortunately losing it in a way that can really make the world a much worse place very fast." Joining us now is Paul Krugman, and Nobel laureate, research professor of economics at CUNY's Graduate Center and author of the Paul Krugman Substack. Paul, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for us. Give us the explanation behind how you got to that conclusion and made that point about what is going to happen in the next few days and why it could be so dangerous, not just for America, but for the world.
Okay, first thing to say is that these two posts and some other things that Trump has said in interviews and in the last few days, they are completely unhinged. They are, before we get into his mental state, let's just say that he is now threatening violence against innocent civilians because he's unable to get what he wants militarily. And we have a name for people who use violence against innocent people because because they're too weak to get what they want militarily. We call them terrorists. So, you know, I've been looking at the definitions, ICE's definition of terrorism, and what the President of the United States has been saying the past couple of days really fits the definition of terrorism as his own officials write it down. So this is horrifying. And the reason I'm saying 25th Amendment and all that is the instability. I mean, just a few days ago, he was saying, oh, we've won and we don't need to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's up to other people. And now, just a couple of days later, he's saying, wow, we're going to destroy Iran's power plants and its bridges. We're going to bond them back into the Stone Ages. He's using turns of phrase that are very unlike him. I mean, the first post said, glory be to God. The second one concluded, Allah Akbar. This doesn't, either he's having major personality disorder or somebody else is largely writing it. So this is really horrifying. And this is, to have somebody who is that unhinged and unstable in control of the armed forces of the United States is a really horrifying thing.
Paul, you mentioned Tim Snyder's argument that much of this could be a pretext for something else. Why do you believe that?
Yeah, Tim Snyder. Now, I'm reluctant to go there, but Trump has ordered this, called for in his budget, not ordered. He can't do that, we don't think, an enormous increase in military spending for no clear purpose, but it's something that will make Army officers happy. And there's this, what we're seeing is a lot of, we're seeing the Pete Hegseth, the self-proclaimed Secretary of War, firing senior officers in the middle of a war, and seemingly what sure looks like loyalty tests being imposed within the military, personal loyalty tests. It's not too hard to think that something is going to, that there's certainly some intention to try to somehow circumvent or at least rig the midterm elections. Now, I don't know that. I mean, what we can see right off is that this guy, that I wouldn't trust someone who raves on social media the way the President of the United States does. I wouldn't trust him to run the bodega around the corner. I wouldn't trust him to watch my cat. And to have him watching the military of the United States is just, this should not be allowed to persist. If we had a functioning democracy, he would be out one way or another. But, yesterday.
Paul, you said you don't trust him to run the bodega or watch your cat. He also has quite a bit of influence over the global economy, as well as lots of munitions.
That's the lie, right there. The idea this is just political bluster. What you just heard is a Nobel laureate directly accusing a former president of rhetoric that fits the definition of terrorism. Not speculation. Fact. This isn't abstract policy debate. This is a direct line to your national security, your financial stability, the very foundation of global peace. So why is this not being treated as a 5-alarm emergency? Why is no one in that room asking where the real danger lies? This is exactly what Partisan Pulse exists for, the moment between what they called unhinged and what the record shows is a calculated strategy. Because that gap, that's where your future disappears. Here's the mechanism. This isn't just about a tweet. It's about threatening to bomb power plants and bridges in a region where 20% of the world's oil flows. You won't just see it at the pump. The prices of diesel fuel, jet fuel, even helium, they're already spiking. That's not just a number. That's your grocery bill, your shipping costs, your family's budget, your household. They want you to believe this is just Trump being Trump. A bit aggressive, maybe, a strong leader. They'll spin it as decisive action or sending a message. They'll say it's just words designed to rally a base. That's the official version. A political show. Harmless. But here's what didn't make the headline. Paul Krugman just laid out the receipt. ICE's own definition of terrorism. That's documented. That's on the record. It means threatening violence against civilians to achieve political goals. And that's exactly what the former president's post described. Not a glitch, not a miscalculation, a choice so destabilizing that a sitting Democratic senator invoked the 25th Amendment. That's not normal. That's a red flag waving in a hurricane. It gets worse. This isn't just about explosive rhetoric. This is how the system breaks. An enormous, unexplained increase in military spending. the firing of senior officers, the suggestion of circumventing elections. These aren't isolated incidents. They are gears turning in a very specific, dangerous mechanism. The world watches, markets react. This isn't just a polycrisis of economic time bombs. This is the deliberate ignition of those bombs. Pay attention to this number. The Federal Reserve already warned about shadow banks and unregulated financial fragility. You can't trust someone who raves on social media with a bodega, let alone the most powerful military on earth. This isn't just about some distant conflict. It's about the stability of the global economy, directly impacting your job, your savings, your ability to put food on the table. If this continues unchallenged, if this becomes the new normal, then the very idea of a functioning democracy, of a stable financial future for your kids, disappears. Remember what he said at the top? Now you know why he said it. Go back to what Krugman said at the top. Now you know it wasn't confusion. It was the answer to a question nobody asked out loud. The record is clear. The threats are documented. The only question now is who's watching. Drop one word in the comments. Accountability or complicity. Let's see where this audience lands. Next, the leaked document connecting this military spending directly to election interference. It's dated 3 weeks before those press conferences. You'll want to see it.